So I'm Michael Quinn Patton, utilization-focused evaluation and an independent evaluator. And I was on the board of the journal from the beginning for the first 7 years and saw the quality of submissions, the importance of the ideas that were coming forth, uh, and the quality of the selection and editorial process. And that encouraged me to then submit when I came off the editorial board to make a contribution. I could probably build on that because the theory of philanthropy article was about encouraging foundations to get clear about why they did what they did, whether it's strategic philanthropy or responsive or whatever the mix, if they're an operating foundation, and basically was arguing that the critical introduction of theory of change that Carol Weiss did at the Aspen Institute in 1995 created this ripple effect where foundations were creating theories of change. And the article argues that foundations fund theories of change, but that what they need is not a theory of change unless they're an operating foundation. They need a theory of philanthropy to explain why they do what they do. And that's a different kind of animal. The response to the article, a lot of people have read it, but it actually, in my experience, turns out that very few foundations have turned out to be willing to do the work that's involved in articulating a theory of philanthropy. I worked with some that got started and decided it was just too difficult, and that it does involve a lot of clarity and transparency about thinking about why people are doing what they're doing and what it means, and looking at some of the conflicts that are involved in things like the values that foundations espouse. A number of foundations, for example, say that they want to be relationship based and have relationships with grantees and with people in communities, and they also have the value of being lean and mean. Well, guess which one of those takes precedence? You can't do both of those things. And the part of what the theory of philanthropy was about the actual role of staff. Instead of seeing foundations as just money, staff assets, knowledge assets, evaluation assets, convening assets, to have a broader view and to actually question some of the values. When I did the principles focused evaluation book and looked at foundation values, the most common value I found, because there is a certain herd mentality in philanthropy, was do no harm, which I argue is a completely meaningless principle. That you don't know if you've done harm, and in fact, any effort to change things, to change a system, intentionally is doing harm to the people who benefit from the current system. As Hubert Humphrey famously said, the job is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. The people that are benefiting from the way an unequitable system is operating are not going to be happy with systems change. That's not doing no harm. We ought to be doing harm to the power dynamics of the way things are. So that deeper thinking was a challenge that I don't find many foundations were ultimately willing to take up. We came up with a softer version of it that has gotten picked up more, and that is in the developmental evaluation work, is having people do what we've come to call a retrospective developmental evaluation, which is looking at how did you get here from where you were. So it's telling the story of development without getting into quite the depth that a theory of philanthropy would require.